we can choose to let our minds explore other possibilities, to use our imaginations. For if we consider that astroscientists agree on one point, that the possibility of life elsewhere is not only quite probable, some feel it is there without a doubt. Let us suppose then that these objects are real space vehicles, extraterrestrial in origin, and not an illusion of the mind.
There's nothing to hide. There's nothing to hide at all.
Welcome to Somewhere in the Live Stream. I am your host, Ryan Sprague, a cleanly shaven Ryan Sprague. Sorry about that, guys. I'm getting 12-year-old me tonight. But I do want to say hello to all of our regulars in the chat. I see you. I love you. Thank you so much for being here. If you are new here, welcome to a live stream that we try to do every Sunday here at the Somewhere in the Skies YouTube channel and on Twitch and on X. And yeah, this is where we break down all the latest space and UFO news and just try to get it to you guys as quick as possible. It is an ever-evolving, enigmatic topic, and we try to cover it as best we can here every week with our incredible moderator, Suzanne, who will be making a guest appearance later in the show because we got some awesome stories for you guys. Controversial stories, but awesome nonetheless. I want to give a special shout out to Doug Sprague, who is in the chat as well. Make sure to give him a thumbs up and a hello tonight, guys. Thank you, Dad. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I see Robert in the chat. Richard is here. Mike, the legendary. Kurt. Richie Ruggs is here. Dalen is here as always. Sending my love your way, Dalen, out there. Hello to Pat Gallagher, to Anthony Biggs from Nottingham. Hello. I'm just across the aisles, my friend, in Scotland. Hello to Bill Landers is here. Hello, Bill. Hello. James Craig is here. All work, low pay. Hello, as always. Hello to Ian Smith, to Donnie Falls, Robert Zimmer, Vamp Skiter, and I want to give a special welcome to new YouTube member, James Williams. Thank you so much, James, for becoming a member. We truly do appreciate that as well. Becky is here as well. Pine Cedar, Jake Boss. This is awesome, guys. I could do that all night and just list off the names, but we got to get going. We got so much to talk about, so thank you. Thank you to all of you for being here. Hello to our Twitch watchers as well. Couple things off the bat here. I want to welcome our YouTube members. Like I said, we have Fabian is a new YouTube member. We have Alex as well, and James. So a special shout out to the three of you for becoming YouTube members. And I want to give a special shout out and thank you to our new Patreon subscribers as well. I got to get better at doing this, giving you guys shout outs. You deserve so much more than that. So here is a special thank you going out to Ivana, Robert, Joseph, Repost, Algo, Max, Indy, Rachel, Johan, Vlad, Alec, and Jeremy. A very special thank you to all of our new Patreon subscribers. So yeah, guys, if you have ever thought about helping out the show, Patreon is one easy way to do that, and you get benefits in return. Early access to the podcast, Somewhere in the Skies. You get priority to ask our guests listener questions as well, and yeah, just bonus content and everything in between. So you can head on over to patreon.com/somewhereskies to learn more and to become a Patreon subscriber. So thank you, guys. Thank you to all of you. Speaking of which, Super Chat and Super Stickers will be open all night if you would like to help out the show. That way, to make a one-time donation, we truly do appreciate every single one of those donations, guys. That goes right back into making the show bigger and better. I counted on you guys to help me get a new microphone, and we got it. It is here, baby. How's it sound? We got the Shure MV7 rocking it up here tonight. So thank you. Thank you to all of you. We have a goal of 5 super chats tonight. Help us reach that goal, and that will help support all of our endeavors here as well. Or you could buy a shirt, All Work Low Pay says. That's right. I never, ever market our merch store, and I should start doing that. Yeah, if you want to rock some merch, we got it all over at the merch store. Link should be down in the show notes below. If you're watching this on YouTube or if you're listening in the future, a link should be down there as well. ASMR UAP live stream, Dalen says. Don't laugh too much, Dalen, because I've actually thought about that. I get a lot of people who say to me, you should do ASMR. You have such a comforting voice. You put me to sleep with your podcast. And I always say, uh-oh, I'm not interesting enough. I'm putting people to sleep. But no, I am told I have a very calming voice. So we'll see. Maybe in the future, I'll think about doing some witness accounts or case files in a very low voice where you can listen and hear some of the most mysterious cases that have happened somewhere in the skies. How was that? Did I get the part? Let me know. Let me know. Hello to Dr. J Radio Live. Thanks so much for being here. Just scrolling through to make sure I didn't forget anybody. Cool. Oh, one other thing, guys. We have completed our second Apple Podcasts rating and review contest, and we do have a winner. Our winner was Electrician Man. So we've been running these contests where if you rate and review the Somewhere in the Skies podcast on Apple Podcasts, you get put into a contest to win prizes from me. We have had 2 winners so far, and our first winner received their prizes. They absolutely loved it. And now our second winner, Electrician Man, who I did get in touch with, will be getting their prizes very soon. They wrote this incredible review over on Apple. I've been listening to Somewhere in the Skies for a long time, and it remains one of the best podcasts on UFOs, ET encounters, and government disclosure. Ryan is not only a fantastic host, but also genuinely engaged with his listeners, often responding to comments and fostering great discussions. I try, guys. That's what we do here every Sunday. The interviews are insightful, the research is top-notch, and the storytelling keeps you hooked. If you're interested in UFO phenomena and want a podcast that blends curiosity with credibility, this is the one to follow. So incredibly nice, flattering, and I cannot thank you enough, Electrician Man, for this. And I can't thank all of you enough for the awesome ratings and reviews that you submitted. But we're not done. We are officially tonight activating a brand new Apple Podcast contest. So starting right now, you can head on over to Apple and rate and review us. Send me a screenshot of your rating and review, whether through DMs, through social media, or the easiest, most direct way is through email. We have an email that we have in the show notes. We'll put it up on the screen as well. ryan.sprague51@gmail.com. Send me a screenshot of your rating and review, and you will be put into our next contest, thrown into a random generator, and we will pick another winner. The deadline for this contest will be March 2nd, Sunday, March 2nd at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard. So again, head on over to Apple Podcasts and put in your rating and review and help us climb the charts and get to the top of Apple Podcasts, still the largest podcast platform in the world. So yeah, thank you guys. Thank you in advance, and thank you to everyone who has done this so far. Okay, that's it. Enough preamble. Let's get to the news, guys. And we're starting with a really, really interesting story here. Starting with space. And this story comes to us from Euro Weekly. And the headline of this story reads, "Colossal puffy ghost planet appears from nowhere, and science can't explain it." The world just gets weirder and weirder. I love this. So recently, guys, NASA-backed astronomers have found something so strange, so unexplainable, it's throwing planetary science into complete turmoil. WASP 193b, a colossal puffy giant that defies every rule in the book, is 50% bigger than Jupiter, but barely there at all. What do they mean, barely there? It is floating like a cosmic ghost in a distant star system. Scientists admit they have no idea how it formed, and no existing theories can explain it. So I'm going to go ahead and play this video that comes to us from the Space Out YouTube channel. So a special shout out to Space Out YouTube channel. And they kind of go more in depth about what this planet is and what NASA is trying to do right now, how it was detected, and where do we go from here with this colossal, puffy ghost planet. This is crazy. Give this a watch.
Of scientists hit the jackpot when they discovered WASP 193b, a gas giant unlike any we had ever seen before, orbiting its planet about 1,200 light years away from us. After carefully analyzing their data, they finally published their results in the prestigious scientific journal Nature Astronomy in May 2024. In terms of size, WASP 193b's radius is about 50% larger than Jupiter, making it absolutely massive. But in terms of mass, the planet is nearly 7 times lighter than our solar system's giant. This makes it about an order of magnitude less dense than Jupiter-like gas giants. To put that into perspective, Earth has a density of 5.5 grams per cubic centimeter compared to our newly discovered puffball with its 0.059 grams per cubic centimeter. This means the Earth is about 100 times denser. Both Kepler-51d and WASP 193b are examples of a new category of planets that are being termed superpuffs, thanks to their exceedingly low densities. They've only become known over the past decade or so, and as such are still not well understood. When they first saw the results, the discovery team, which included experts from MIT, were stunned. WASP 193b's incredibly low density baffled traditional planet formation theories, despite the team using state-of-the-art evolution models. To unravel this cosmic mystery, the scientists end the study by recommending WASP 193b as a prime candidate to be observed by the JWST, aka the James Webb Space Telescope. The cutting-edge space telescope would help scientists immensely in analyzing WASP 193b's atmosphere in unprecedented detail, providing crucial clues about its formation and evolution.
Wow. Puff, baby. Super puffs, Dalen says. Cheesy poofs. I love it. I love it. How... This is just so cool. Super puff sounds like a Cheetos marshmallow planet. Awesome, guys. Keep the puns coming. Please keep those puffy puns coming. This is crazy. So, I'm going to expand a little bit on this. Among the 5,400 plus exoplanets discovered so far, WASP 193b is officially one of the fluffiest ever found. Once astronomers crunched the numbers, the results were staggering. WASP 193b's mass is just 14% of Jupiter's, while its density sits at a near non-existent 0.059 grams per cubic centimeter. It is likely made up of hydrogen and helium, much like other gas giants, but its atmosphere appears to stretch tens of thousands of kilometers beyond Jupiter's own, like a cosmic balloon expanding in slow motion. The research team is deploying a special technique developed by MIT's Julian de Witt, which will analyze the planet's atmosphere to determine its temperature, composition, and pressure at different depths. Crazy stuff, guys. I am loving this. I am absolutely loving this story. Can't wait to hear more about these puff planets and like how they formed. What purpose will they serve, if any? I don't know. So cool, Pat says. Yeah, I thought this would be a really fun story to start with. So there you go, guys. Puff planets coming at you. Let's move to aliens. Sound good? But before we do that, I know Pat Gallagher is really curious about what I'm drinking tonight. And I did want to let you guys know that I am going tonight. Pure Scotland, baby. I got me some Scotch neat, and we're going to be cheersing to the puff planets tonight. Cheers to you guys. What are you drinking? Let me know in the chat. I don't care if it's water, tea, coffee, beer, wine, mixed drink. What do you got? What's going on in your cup? Let me know. Somewhere in the cup. Ooh. Ooh, that is harsh. I have never looked more uncool than right now. Pat's drinking tea. Love it. Black coffee for Egyptian princess. Classy. I respect that. As a coffee fiend, I still, to this day, cannot drink my coffee just black. I need at least a dash of milk in there. At least. Vodka OJ. Nice, Kurt. I love that. Benedictine and brandy on the rocks, but not yet. Oh, work pay. Low pay says. Cheers to that. Coffee for Jake. Dalen's drinking a probiotic, herbal, disgusting, long COVID snake oil concoction. Wow. That is a mouthful right there. But I hope you're enjoying. Well, you said it was disgusting, so I guess you're just enduring. Hello to Tom as well. Welcome, guys. Hi to James Craig as well. All right. Like I said, we're going to move now, guys, to aliens. Love it. Remember this image? Classic. Towards the end of Close Encounters of the Third Kind by Steven Spielberg, who we talked about at length last week. Yeah, we're getting some slow drip disclosures about Steven Spielberg's brand new movie coming out about UFOs, aptly titled Disclosure. But that's not what this story is about. This story comes to us from Popular Mechanics, and the title is Aliens Could Be All Around Us, but We're Totally Unprepared for First Contact. Let's get into the specifics with this one, guys. Today, technological advancements like the Habitable Worlds Observatory is searching for signs of life on other worlds. Scientists think it's only a matter of time before we find evidence of alien life among the billions of stars in our galaxy. But what happens if or when we make actual contact with alien life? Do governments have a plan in place? And that's what this article is asking. With the United States, who has an astronomical $840 billion defense budget, you'd think there would be a preliminary to-do list in case we encounter ET life. Well, either that information has never been made public, or the answers, terrifyingly, are no. There is no plan. So SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Life director, Seth Shostak, says he doesn't think that the U.S. government agencies or the military have a plan for possible first contact. And most military spokespeople do not respond to emailed questions about potential response to ET contact. In fact, the U.S. Army's Defense Press Operations commented only briefly on the topic, with Susan Goff of the Pentagon stating it is not part of the Army's mission to seek evidence of aliens. She just cannot stay out of our news, can she, guys? From a scientist's perspective, the potential detection of ET biosignatures comes first, and it would follow the same scientific process as many other research. How to respond to such a discovery is an important discussion involving a broad cross-section of a global community. This was said by NASA spokesperson Charles Blue. In other words, the world at large would need to be involved in the response, not just scientists. For now, any existing protocols seem to lie entirely within the realm of scientific foundations like SETI and other research-based organizations that have knowledge of relevant fields like astrobiology and astrophysics. This approach makes sense to Carol Oliver, PhD, a leading expert on the science of astrobiology at the University of New South Wales in Australia. Governments haven't dedicated energy to creating a first contact plan because they would turn first to science advisory anyway. NASA has worked on its own first contact protocols, conducting a 2024 workshop event about how best to communicate the discovery of alien life. The space agency also oversees the Office of Planetary Protection, whose missions include safeguarding Earth against ET contamination. What? Don't be giving me no extraterrestrial cooties. If an alien civilization could reach Earth, the sheer ability to travel light years would mean the aliens would already be vastly superior to us technologically. These aliens would be so advanced that our missiles and fighter jets would be like Neanderthals taking on the US military. That's a quote from Seth Shostak at SETI. If their technology vastly outclasses our own, then an alien visit would immediately become an urgent matter of national security. Realistically, though, the first ET life we discover is probably going to be microbial on an asteroid or in the primordial seas of Saturn's moons. Again, from Seth Shostak. Titan or Jupiter's moon Europa as well. Even if superintelligent aliens exist, we're far likelier to detect their technosignatures, such as radio waves, than to actually meet them, simply because they are probably many light years away and the timescales of the universe are vast. So if we're talking about a civilization on a nearby world outside of the solar system, the chances are it'd be long dead when we finally detect it. That's depressing. On the other hand, I'm going to come back on screen here. I've been staring at this image long enough, guys. I apologize. On the other hand, if we discover that Earth doesn't harbor the only life in the universe, especially if we consider the aliens to be intelligent, we probably would handle first contact the same way we've handled almost every other cultural, philosophical, political, or scientific milestone in our species' 300,000 year history. We'll make it up as we go along. So there you go, guys. Scientists of the world do not think we are ready for ET contact. What do you think? Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the comments below. Do you think we're ready? Do you think we're ready to finally make full contact with some sort of extraterrestrial, or as we're calling it now, non-human intelligence? Let me know. Let me know. Daniel says, I would imagine they would be anthropologists for their species. Yeah, that's a good point. What sort of reps would they send? You know, I do wonder that. Gareth says, scientists are the most boring people in the world. Oh, that's so sad. They have to be. They're realists. And reality can often be boring. We need dreamers. That's what we do here at Somewhere in the Skies. When those dreamers can finally converge with the realists, that's when things get interesting. Pat says some of us are ready, not all of us. Very, very well put. Succinct, and I agree with that. Dalen says no hope in hell. Robert says we're very primitive. Ryan SETI is right. Yeah. I mean, the fact that SETI, it's almost like not hypocritical, but I guess ironic in a way that SETI said that, because so many people think SETI is like primitive in terms of how they search for extraterrestrial life with just like radio waves. Look, I think SETI's great. I love SETI. I hope to have more SETI reps on the show. I've reached out to many, and almost none of them have gotten back to me, which is super like sad. Like, I just don't get it. I don't understand why they don't want to talk about this stuff. I'm going to keep trying, though. Going to keep trying. Hello to Logan. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for being here. Miss seeing your show. It's so honest. Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate that. We just try to bring what we can here. Ask questions. Have fun while we do it. But thank you. All right, guys. What do we got next? Aliens. Aliens, aliens, aliens. What about alien technology? And what if we invested in alien technology? That's right. We are talking UFOs and investing in UFOs. Interesting story that came out this week. If you're watching this on YouTube, we have a gentleman on your screen named Matthew Tuttle. This story's headline reads, New fund to invest in reverse engineered alien technology based on government disclosures about UFOs. Okay. So Tuttle Capital has filed to invest in reverse engineered alien technology with the Tuttle Capital UFO Disclosure AI powered exchange traded fund. Good Lord. This is one of 8 new products that the manager has registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission. With the ticker UFOD, the actively managed UFO Disclosure AI powered ETF will invest at least 80% of its net assets in a basket of companies that Tuttle Capital believes have potential exposure to advanced reverse engineered alien technology, spurred by disclosures about UFOs and alleged advanced technologies. Those companies will include aerospace groups and defense contractors that may have research and development programs rumored to work with classified technology, potentially leading to groundbreaking advancements. Matthew Tuttle, chief executive of the Tuttle Capital, said he had been interested in UFOs for many years. And while there are, by definition, an unknown quantity, Tuttle said he believes that investing in UFOs and the technology that they may use could take off once his product hits the market. He would say, quote, I'm a trader. I look at UFOs and I say, sorry, I lost my spot here. I'm a trader. I look at UFOs and I say that they're using a power source that is light years beyond anything that we have. If our government has this technology and it's released, that will be a game changer. So while UFOD's launch is not a sure thing, according to Tuttle, without sufficient information sourced from government disclosure on UFOs, the product might not go to market. The risky and opaque nature of alien investment is not lost on Tuttle and his firm. UFO technology may be out of reach for the average investor, but AI is one known advancement that Tuttle believes is reshaping the financial landscape. He would say, quote, what AI can do is a game changer, and I don't think people have fully wrapped their heads around that yet. He added that he used AI for 90% of his investment process. I don't know. I don't even know what to say about this story. I know there are good things that are coming from AI. I get that. But there's just as much, if not more, bad things that come from AI as well. And the fact that this guy is using 90% AI for his investments is just like, where's the fun in that? Where's the thrill? Like, you got to tell me people who invest, people like Matthew Tuttle, all these like Wall Street people, like, there has to be a reason they got involved with this stuff. I mean, money is always the driving factor for pretty much anything in life, but especially for like Wall Street bros and all that BS. Like, where's the thrill? Where's the adrenaline? Where's the creativity in doing something like that? You know, just using a machine to do everything for you. I understand the results will probably be very accurate and you will make more money. And again, like, there's your bottom line right there. But Investing in ambiguous alien, reverse engineered alien technology just cracks me up. Now, I did see some conversation on like Twitter and stuff about like, oh, this is a good thing. Like this guy is investing in this stuff, and maybe he will have luck getting some UFO disclosure about these programs, these immaculate constellations, and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, like this dude is a private investor investing in private companies. So even if he invested in this sort of technology and got it to give to his other investors or whatnot, like we're not going to see that. You and me, the public, it's just another way of gatekeeping everything. I don't see the benefit in this. I just don't. That's me personally. I also don't understand investing by any stretch of the imagination. So I may be speaking completely out of turn on all of this, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know. What do you guys think about this story? It's sort of controversial. As controversial as stories on UFOs can get in the grand scheme of things going on in the world right now. It seems a little weird to say that. But yeah, what do you think? Should we invest in rumored alien technology? Let me know in the comments below or in the chat. He's investing in a hypothetical technology that may not exist. Exactly, Dalen. Like, it's interesting. It's ambitious. He's obviously willing to take the hits financially if this doesn't work out. Daniel says he wants to get rich off of it and be a gatekeeper. I tend to agree with that. Pat says short-sighted human greed. Yeah, keep your Wall Street bro crap out of our UFOs, man. What do we got next? We are moving to Nevada. You guys ready for some Area 51 talk? Area 51 had an earthquake. Not the base itself, but the area of 51 and surrounding areas. This is pretty crazy. Area 51 rocked by earthquake as seismic activity around mysterious testing site ramps up. This story comes to us from the Daily Mail. A 2.8 magnitude earthquake that rattled Las Vegas this past Monday hit just miles from Area 51. The announcement of a large tremor right on the base's doorsteps will likely ramp up the speculation of what might be happening underground at the top secret facility, even if this was just an ordinary earthquake. I'm taking me off screen because I'm hiccuping like crazy. So although this earthquake, about 2.5 in magnitude, can often be felt and cause minor damage, there have not been any reports of injuries due to this earthquake. Nevada is one of the most seismically active states in the country of the United States, according to the National Park Service. Officials say it ranks third after California and Alaska. Wow, I didn't know that about Alaska. I guess that kind of makes sense. It found that the base is officials say it ranks third after California and Alaska because of the state's many faults found at the base of almost every mountain range. Area 51 is not accessible by the public and is even off limits to regular military air traffic. In fact, a Google map of the area where Monday's earthquake took place will show you nothing at all. No base and no mention of the Air Force's presence in the Nevada desert. So yeah, guys, pretty crazy. Area 51 suffered an earthquake. Maybe it'll shake some stuff to the surface, shake some truth. Let's get them 9 sports model craft, right, Big Bobby Lazar? I want to see them. Maybe the Element 115 is finally exploded, causing these earthquakes. I don't know. Pretty crazy though. I've been subject to one earthquake. Mind you, I lived in Los Angeles. Almost said Las Vegas. I lived in Los Angeles proper for 2 years. The there were several earthquakes while I lived there. There's earthquakes all the time in LA, obviously. But I slept through all of them. So I personally never experienced him. However, the only earthquake I ever felt was when I was working on the 22nd floor of a skyscraper in Midtown Manhattan in New York City. It was the scariest thing I've ever experienced. There I am, typing away on my computer, working a horrible desk job, one of the worst soulless jobs I've ever had in my life. We all have done them. Some of us probably still do them. But I just remember sitting there on my computer, just hung up the phone with a client, and the floor started shaking and rumbling. And I could literally see the windows sort of like, vibrating almost. It was crazy. And of course, like being in Midtown Manhattan, your worst fears start to come to the surface. Like, is this an attack? Did something explode? What is about to happen? And am I going to die on the 23rd floor of this soulless building working a job that I'm miserable at? Is this how I'm going to go? It was not. It was one of few earthquakes to ever reach the island of Manhattan. And it was crazy. It was crazy, crazy. Sorry, really went off on a tangent there, but I thought I would share that story with you guys. But yeah, there you go. Interesting. I'm glad no one was injured during this earthquake near Area 51. But that's actually where we're going to move next, guys, to injuries that did occur at Area 51. So, if you're watching this on YouTube, you are seeing an image of several military employees, all of which worked at the secretive base in Nevada called Area 51. This story comes to us from News Nation, and we have covered this in the past, guys. So if it sounds redundant, we are going to walk through it again because it is a very interesting story, not so much to do with UFOs, but Area 51 itself and employees who have worked there. But there are some updates on this. So the headline of the News Nation story is former Area 51 veterans getting cancer as DOD denies they were there. This is really sad. So a growing list of former Area 51 employees have come forward to say that they got cancer from working with highly radioactive materials at Area 51. They are banding together to seek benefits for both themselves and their colleagues who have died. I'm going to go ahead and play a video for you guys. This video comes to us, again, from News Nation, who did a special about this story. And yeah, we're going to watch this, talk a little bit more about this on the other side, and then get to our second half of the show with Suzanne. So let's go ahead and watch this video from News Nation about these Area 51 employees, where they've been, what they're doing now, and where this all may be heading in the future, as they still are trying to seek benefits for cancer that they believe they contracted, some of them and their friends and colleagues at Area 51. Give this a watch.
Classified to protect themselves.
A group of Air Force veterans and a DoD contractor say they have been sickened, even disfigured, after being stationed in the desert in the mid-'80s to early '90s.
Did you have any idea what you were being exposed to?
None. None of us knew.
These veterans say they served at the Nevada Test and Training Range, which encompasses the infamous Area 51, a remote spot that hosted nuclear testing both underground and atmospheric. Since the 1950s, their work so secret there would be no record that the men ever served in the windswept desert.
It was the technology behind it. That's what we were there to make sure nobody got.
They still can't talk about most of their work on the range, but the one mission they can now disclose, guarding the F-117 Nighthawk, America's first stealth bomber.
We ended the Cold War, truly.
Oh, wow. The story begins with a reunion barbecue back in 2016 at veteran Dave Creet's Las Vegas home. Air Force buddies who hadn't seen each other in decades make a startling discovery.
So I asked the guys, we're just sitting around drinking beers. I said, you guys, I got this lump on my back. And I don't know, has anybody else got that?
I said, yeah, I had one of those. I had it removed. It was the size of a grapefruit.
6 out of the 8 vets had benign tumors called lipomas. The 7th said, I don't have any, but my son was born with one.
It just kind of confirmed it. There was an issue. Where we were that's the one common denominator is we were all there.
A DoD contractor who worked at the base at the same time as these vets sickened.
Yeah, you took the teeth out first because they had to scrape out a lot of cancer.
They had to scrape out a lot of cancer.
2 cancers, 80% of his tongue removed, along with his vocal cords, all of his teeth. He lives on a feeding tube. The veterans tell News Nation their medical claims are being denied by Veterans Affairs. The work so top secret, their records are what's called data masked, as if they were never there.
It's like a kick in the gut. It's just a matter of betrayal.
After learning of the serious health conditions his Air Force brothers were suffering from, Dave did some research on the Nevada test site. Hundreds of nuclear weapons tests were conducted in the area from the 50s until the early 90s. In the 1970s, the government began exploring the idea of building a military installation there to house classified projects. A 1975 Department of Defense environmental report of the area acknowledges nuclear contamination, depleted uranium, beryllium, and plutonium present before the men were sent by the government to the range. But the report says, quote, discontinuing the work done would be against the national interest.
It's one thing to be ignorant, or to be naive, to not know, but they've understood for a long time.
Dave's discoveries led him to create the Invisible Enemy, an advocacy group where he says he's connected with more than 1,000 veterans who served at the Nevada test site. Hundreds of them report being sick.
We were in the dirt all the time. You know, I can recall the times where when we'd perspire, that our uniforms would turn kind of a yellowish orange.
Our government knew that that area was contaminated. So knowing that, and they willfully put us there, that's given somebody a death sentence.
We did something important. We did good work. We changed things. We don't deserve being ignored by saying we don't exist.
I'm speechless. I was watching this, guys. My mic was muted, but all I was doing was just swearing at the United States government and what they've done to these people. I know it's not just the United States. And I saw someone in the chat said this is happening in Britain as well. I'm sure this happens at military bases all over the place that deal with radioactive materials and biochemical weapons and maybe even non-human technology. Not to make light of this or anything, but it's an Australian issue as well, Dalen says. Yeah. Man. You know what, though? Good for them for not giving up. Banding together, getting thousands of people who worked at the Nevada test site together. Go get them, guys. Your government owes you guys everything. And you owe them absolutely nothing. You've given them everything, including your lives, your friends, your kids. They said one of their kids was born with one of those tumors. It's just sickening. Absolutely sickening. And you guys know me. I'm like super sensitive, commie, socialist, pacifist Ryan. But thank you to all of these men and women. They do work for national security out there. And a lot of them probably had valiant reasons for doing that. But at the end of the day, what they were working on out there, a lot of it is weaponized. And it's used for extremely militant, malicious, and greedy purposes. And my heart breaks for them. There's really nothing else more to say. I hadn't watched that whole video, so I'm sorry. I'm a little shaken by that. Oh man, good luck, guys. Good luck. Let me know what you guys think of this story in the chat. Ooh. I need a I need a shot. Okay. Not only do I need a shot, I need a quick commercial break, guys, because when we come back, we are going to be talking about some pretty interesting stuff. We have a follow-up about the questions from Congressional UFO hearing that recently took place. The follow-up questions have been answered in written form by the 4 witnesses that testified at the most recent UAP hearing. So we are going to talk all about their answers to those questions when we come back. And then we are also going to end with the latest story hitting the headlines about the House GOP and their launch of the Federal Secrets Task Force. Pretty interesting stuff. So a lot more to come, guys, on the other side. So stick with us. We will be right back with Somewhere in the live stream. I'll see you in a sec. Greetings, everyone. Ryan Sprague here, host of Somewhere in the Skies. For over 7 years and more than 400 episodes, the Somewhere in the Skies podcast has always been free to listen to, but it's not free to create. So we offer several ways to help support our efforts and get rewards in return. If you listen to the podcast on Apple, you can click the subscribe button at the top of your Somewhere in the Skies feed to become a premium Apple subscriber. Or you can join our Patreon campaign with several tiers available. Both of these options give you the same benefits and rewards: ad-free episodes, early access to the main show, and bonus episodes and content. Help keep the lights on at the Somewhere in the Skies HQ, and help us continue to grow by becoming a Patreon subscriber at patreon.com/somewhereskies, or by clicking the subscribe button at the top of your Apple feed. Thank you for your continued support, and keep looking up. And welcome back to Somewhere in the live stream. If you're just joining us, we are talking all the latest space and UFO news, and we are covering a lot, man, some whiplash. That last story was pretty powerful, right? But let's skip to UFOs, specifically UFOs. Now, our next story, like I mentioned before the commercial break, is about the most recent UFO/UAP hearing that took place in November of 2024. And headline here is follow-up questions from Congressional UFO hearing have been answered and made public. So I'm going to bring her in just a second, but a little catch up for you guys here. In November 2024, the House Oversight Committee Joint Subcommittee had a public hearing called Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena Exposing the Truth. The 4 witnesses were retired U.S. Navy Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet, former Department of Defense official Luis Elizondo, NASA UAP Independent Study Team member Michael Gold, and journalist Michael Schellenberger. So basically, this hearing happened. We did a live stream of it, some follow-up after it, and the reviews were mixed. This definitely was not like a David Grush-esque sort of thing. No huge bombshells really uncovered and all that. But it's fine. It was interesting, to say the least. But some of the more interesting stuff came with some follow-up questions that congressional members had for these 4 witnesses. So basically what happens is after these sorts of congressional hearings, congressional members have the opportunity to ask more follow-up questions of the witnesses through written letters to these witnesses. And basically, after swearing to do these hearings, the witnesses basically have to answer the questions to the best of their abilities. I don't know if there's any ramifications if they don't. I don't even know if they legally have to. But all 4 did. all 4 of these people did respond to the follow-up questions by congressional members. And this came to light through the work, and we should give a major hat tip to D. Dean Johnson on Twitter and X. D. Johnson is always uncovering a lot of good stuff over there, so be sure to give them a follow. I will put a link to D. Johnson's Twitter handle in the show notes retroactively, excuse me. I word good. Be sure to follow them. And they were the one to uncover this and obtain these written answers. So we're going to kind of walk through some of the highlights, some of the questions asked of each of them, and some of the answers that were given. And we are going to do that with the one and the only Suzanne Landers, our incredible moderator. So I'm going to bring her in right now. And there she is. Hello.
Hi, how is everybody?
How's everyone doing, guys? Let us know in the chat. I'm going to take over the chat. How's that sound, Suzanne?
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, you do some of the talking, because I'm just babbling over here using words that make no sense.
You're doing great.
I'm still recovering from that Area 51 story. That was pretty heavy,
know.
right?
Tough stuff.
Yeah,
Tough stuff.
Do you remember when we covered that in the past? I remember it was pretty powerful back then when I first learned about it, but to know that they're still dealing with this and the DOD is still denying that any of them worked there, like, how can you deny that thousands of people didn't work there, you know?
Exactly. And then live with yourself. And it reminds me a whole lot of Bob Lazar. And I know everybody that he's a hot button and everybody has different opinions on him and whether he's truthful or not truthful. But I think we can agree they tried to wipe him out of the book, just like these guys. And, so it's very frustrating, and it begs the question of why.
Yeah.
Why? What is
exactly.
so important that you're going to eliminate humans?
Exactly. You bring up Bob Lazar. You know what it actually reminds me of is that the whole John Burroughs thing from the Rendlesham Forest UFO incident. So this guy allegedly touched a UFO in Rendlesham Forest in 1980 and believes he had adverse health effects from said craft. And, basically he was on his deathbed at one point due to like radioactive stuff that he believes happened at the UFO event. And he could not get benefits from Veteran Affairs because they said, A, we have no record of this UFO event, and B, we have no record of you being in the military.
Isn't that incredible? Incredible that it can even happen, but it
Insane.
Does happen. It has happened.
It happens. Luckily, through the work of John McCain and several others, he was able to get those benefits to literally save his life. And now there are official records stating this guy was helped by the Veteran Affairs because of a UFO event that happened in 1980. Crazy stuff.
Exactly.
Crazy stuff.
And what a step forward and what that really means in terms of acknowledgement.
Right. I can only hope that happens for these guys as well in the future. But
me too. Not fair.
Yeah, not fair at all. Let's move to this story. Now, you did a lot of the heavy lifting on this one for me, putting together a fantastic spreadsheet, as you always do.
God, I love a spreadsheet.
I should send this. I should post this in the show notes or something for you guys. It's amazing.
Oh my gosh.
And that's what you do. Like when I get super busy putting these things together, and throughout the week, you and I compile everything. And I begged you, I pleaded you. I'm like, can you please just kind of like dumb this down for me, get this in some sort of cohesion, because I just So basically, like we summarized, finally, we got the follow-up questions answered from congressional members. And we kind of broke them down, each individual. So I guess where should we start? Should we start with our DOD guy over there, Mr. Luis Elizondo?
I think that's a great start, Mark. And I say that because he is really the only one of the 4 who answered every single question. And I think that when we get, let's start with him. We'll go through his answers, and then we'll kind of shortcut the others, and I will pull out what I thought was most interesting about them.
Cool. Sounds good. So, what do we have?
The first question that they sent, and let me put this caveat on there. I'm not these are not perfect transcriptions of the questions. They're sort of I'm knocking the questions down to their lowest common denominator. The materials themselves are voluminous, but the questions are pretty basic and what they ask and how they ask some of them. I can tell you some of them are not how I would have asked a question, and I think you're going to see why, because of the response you get from a particular witness on a particular question. Like, you didn't ask that the right way, I think, but we'll see. Okay, so starting with Elizondo, and just as a reminder, you know, he testified in mid-November, like the 13th of November last year. And then he wanted to be in a skiff, and I don't think a skiff happened. I don't know that for sure, but I was scanning, looking for anything out there that would confirm that it had, and he didn't say anything about it. But then these follow-up questions came in. And the first one was very simple. Does any branch of government or defense contractor have NHI tech? And I love the single answer. Yes, just yes, yes. He talks about, and just to remind everybody, he was a senior ranking person at ATIP, and they were investigating UAP. He also engaged with senior execs at the DoD, including the aerospace companies that these things are farmed out to. And he says that the aerotech companies do, in fact, have NHI, and he uses the term exotic materials. So he wasn't willing to limit it, and he also clearly wasn't willing to say it's craft, it's biologicals, but you know, it was a broad open yes, exotic materials.
Always tiptoeing, always.
Yeah, always tiptoeing, and I know that some of that is about what he's been cleared to say and what he hasn't.
Right. But
this is what I thought was really interesting. So there was some arrangement through DoD for, I believe, a craft to go from Lockheed Martin to Bigelow. And Elizondo says this happened when the Lockheed Martin executive said they could no longer glean additional insight from the materials that they had. And so ATIP was going to take control of it, physical custody of it. But a deal got brokered, apparently, for it to go to Bigelow, from Lockheed to Bigelow. And he cites a September 6, 2023 document that authorized Lakatsky, who was formerly the OSAP director, to make an unclassified statement, which was that DoD, through ATIP or OSAP, had allocated $22 million for this transfer of a craft from Las Vegas, and it was supposed to go to Bigelow, and that all the hangars and the transport was almost like a skiff facility, which I found interesting. I'd never heard this before. The whole hangar for whatever this was skiffed. He calls it skiffed out. And so I know.
I'm going to start using that.
I had to do a little Googling, not on skiffed out, but there were several phrases. Everybody may want to go look at these and see what they think it means. I wasn't able to get answers on all of it. But anyway, so they call this a divestment plan to take it out of one place and put it in the hands of another. And Lockheed Martin was saying goodbye to it. And then he notes in his answer that this was UAP craft retrieval obtained during the 50s and other, quote, historical operations, close quote. Made me think Roswell. Who knows? Made me think Roswell. And then says it didn't happen. And he added that after 9/11, the government significantly reduced UAP legacy efforts to focus on the war on terror. And so I don't know if it just got swept under the rug or what happened, and there was nothing else out there to help us on that, but it didn't happen. It didn't happen. So that was question one. Question two was, does any branch of the U.S. government or defense contractors employ exotic materials from NHI or non-terrestrial origins? And here's the answer. Yes. Yes, U.S. government or the contractors have exotic materials of non-human origin. So, and then he was, I know. So then he was asked, have the government or the contractors, quote, made new breakthroughs, close quote, in physics, still undisclosed to the public, including at universities? And a very simple answer again, yes.
Whoa.
They're working the problem. They're working and they're having some level of success.
That's huge.
I thought so too. And it's just a single answer, yes. So then the next question was, are you aware of any evidence or indication that the U.S. military or the contractors have recovered craft of non-human origin? If yes, were there NHI entities with the craft? In other words, were there biologicals? And if yes, were these biologicals still alive? And this was an interesting response. Of several incidents, and that's a quote, where we recovered NHI craft. Some of those crafts had biological specimens. We recovered those. He doesn't know, though, if the beings were alive at the time of their recovery, and he also didn't know were the bodies intact or had something happened in the crash that made them not be intact. So there was then a big hubbub in 2004 with the White House and OSAP and ATIP scientists to talk about the possibility of going public on the disclosure of non-human intelligence and these biologicals. And the decision was made not to disclose to the public. So that was in 2004.
I've never heard that before.
I hadn't either.
I wonder what
it makes a difference to read this stuff, right?
Yeah, and to have follow-up questions. Well,
and to have follow-up questions, right?
I wonder why 2004.
I don't know.
Was there an election that year? I don't think there was.
I don't know. Somebody in the chat, Google if we had a U.S. election in 2004. What was happening?
My presidential history is not good. I do wonder what the significance of 2004 is and why they finally were going to go for disclosure then. But interesting.
I don't know. And also interesting that the White House was involved. It wasn't just DOD, but the White House was involved at the time. So this decision was made not to tell. All right, next question. Could UAP be interdimensional instead of extraterrestrial? And I want everyone to remember this question when we get to Mike Gold. And he's our last one we're going to talk about today. But keep in mind, keep this question and this answer in mind, and we're going to come back to it. And he says yes. ATIP scientists propose that UAP might be interdimensional, cryptozoological, or even aquatic. They might also be, quote, this is fascinating, integral to our environment just as any other natural phenomenon, close quote. Yeah, that we needed better observation tools because our conventional principles and tools were not working.
Interesting.
All right, so this is from the government perspective saying interdimensional, cryptozoological, or even aquatic, maybe even a natural phenomenon here on the planet. And then, I love this question. Do you know that Christopher Sharp alleges that the CIA blocked the transfer of advanced non-human intelligence materials from Lockheed to Bigelow, back to that same transfer that got nixed? And he says, yes, the CIA stepped in and shut it down. The specific facilities were identified to enable Bigelow to acquire it. And this is that part of that $22 million. And apparently, it was in Las Vegas with Lockheed at the time. It was going to go to Bigelow, and I don't know where Bigelow was at the time, but Bigelow built this hangar at a cost of $1,000 and got told they couldn't have it. They were going to receive this thing or things by air and river. And he visited this facility prior to the materials transfer happening. And he said that the facilities, of course, were this skiff enabled, but they were also special access program compliant, which means they could take any level of classified material.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. So
and then go ahead.
Oh, I'm just trying to sort of go back in my memory of the New York Times article and when all of this sort of $22 million thing broke, and was all $22 million supposedly put into ATIP? Was that all just for this one transfer of a craft?
In
So
theory,
none of the other money was used for investigatory purposes or
I think
anything?
not. I think
Huh.
not. And I don't know. We don't even know from these answers whether Bigelow got the 10 million that they used to build this SAP
Oh,
safe
right. I
thing.
forgot
So
about
we don't
that.
even
Yeah.
know that. We don't know that a penny went to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay.
So then, of course, this is a good lawyer question. So this is one question I think they did do well, because you gotta listen and you gotta ask the next question, right?
Mhm.
How was it even known that Lockheed had NHI Tech? And he didn't know the answer. He didn't know the answer.
That's fair. At
Fair.
least at least he was honest about it. Hopefully.
Right. Right. So then it was asked, were you aware of any effort by the CIA to block the transfer of information regarding UAP during your tenure at ATIP? And he said yes. We talked about this. He mentioned the CIA again, that they stepped in and they specifically stopped this transfer. But he also said the Air Force actually did it too. They actively campaigned to suppress UAP inquiries and investigation. And he says it was the CIA who had passive resistance. In other words, that the Air Force had active resistance.
They are always the most resistant to this topic. They were the last to get involved with any sort of UAP or UFO reporting protocols when all of that was going on too. And that's interesting, huh?
Yeah.
Who would have thought that the Air Force would be more strong holding than the CIA itself?
And the CIA, right? And Central Intelligence, you would think would be all over it and be in front position, but no.
Yeah.
And doesn't that beg a question about national security? So, they love to tell us national security keeps them from disclosing and sharing. And yet it's Air Force, not CIA. I don't know. I don't know. So then he was asked, are CIA or other government agencies actively working to conceal UAP-related information from the public? And he says yes. And he mentions retaliation too. It's not just to conceal, but to take retaliatory actions for him and several colleagues. And there were efforts to suspend or revoke people's security clearances. There were direct threats to them and their families. DOD and the intelligence community elements engaged in what he called administrative terrorism to deter people from the platform. He said there's harassment, surveillance, and adverse bureaucratic actions. And then he said there are also unauthorized data leaks. And you know who that makes me think of? David Grush. And his mental health or drug and alcohol records. He didn't say that, but that's who I thought. He also said that they were actively spreading disinformation to the public. And they took attempts to discredit whistleblowers. Also made me think of Grush. Also made me think of the Cybertruck bomber.
Right.
Yeah. And that this was also done by Pentagon public affairs officials and for at least 7 years, if not longer.
Wow.
So disappointing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
yeah.
Oh man. I wanna circle back to Grush at the end of this entire story. But yeah, please continue.
Okay. So then he was specifically asked, was any of the $22 million for OSAP program earmarked for Lockheed program earmarked for the Lockheed Martin transfer?
That's what I wanted to know.
That's it. And then here's what he says. He didn't say yes or no. We have these very specific yeses. He says, we did not have that here. 22 million went to a variety of programs, advanced physics studies, civilian personnel and contractors, conducting field research. So I don't quite know what to make of that, still we don't know, did Bigelow get their 10 million for skiffing out a facility from the ground up? But
right.
We don't know.
It's still very confusing. Yeah. Okay.
All right. So that was Elizondo. That's what he said. You can see he had substantive responses.
That's a lot. Yeah.
That was a lot. All right. And then Tim Galladay, whom I'm just crazy about, wildly respect this man.
Crazy about Tim, a new sitcom coming.
Yeah, new sitcom.
Fall of 2025.
Right. He was asked many of the very same questions Elizondo was asked, the first three at least, and his response was he didn't have direct knowledge. So he didn't have direct knowledge of whether the government or the contractors had NHI tech, or whether they employed exotic materials from NHI or non-terrestrial origins, or whether the government had made breakthroughs in physics. He had no direct knowledge of that. The answer that I have no direct knowledge of that, I thought that could have been significant, but I'm not so sure. Like, maybe there's chitter chatter and he just wasn't going to go there under oath in front of a congressional committee. I don't know, but he just said, I don't have any direct knowledge. Not that he didn't have knowledge, he didn't have direct knowledge. But then we get to the question of, are you aware of any evidence or indication that the U.S. military or contractors have recovered NHI craft, and the subparts of that question, which were there entities and were the entities still alive? And he says he has no direct knowledge of this either, but he has talked with credible former U.S. government officials who say they have, and that 2 of those individuals have testified. I suspect one is Mr. Gresh again. I don't know. Yeah, he doesn't name them. Yeah,
and
but
then
they've
one
testified.
other mystery person. Huh.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know. I guess it could be Elizondo.
See, okay. This is where, and I know some people are going to hate me for saying this, but this is where I get frustrated, Suzanne, because you have these people like Gallaudet, Elizondo, Grush, even up to like Jake Barber. And they always say like, well, I was told this by credible people who worked in the government or with DOD. And I always get this sneaking suspicion that they're all talking about one another. Like, I don't know. I could be completely wrong on that. These could be individuals that have yet to come forward. These could be individuals that never come forward. But I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. I just feel like when they say things like that, they refer to, I spoke to 2 credible people. I'm like, well, is one of those credible people like the guy right next to you right now? And maybe Grush, who was at this other hearing? Like, I don't know. I understand why they can't name names. I get it. But yeah, sorry. I just had to interject with that.
Well, I think you're onto something, because in the last question that he was asked a shorter list of questions. He does mention that he knows something through a particular officer, but that officer wanted to stay anonymous. He was also asked whether he thought UAP were interdimensional instead of extraterrestrial, and he said he didn't know enough physics to be able to affirm or deny that. So pass on that one. But then the last question, which is the one I was just referring to, he was asked if there had been any reported incidents of USOs tracking or disrupting the operation of underwater craft, including nuclear subs. And he said one was reported from a U.S. Navy ballistics sub-officer who detected a USO on sonar, and that it actually forced the nuclear sub to take evasive maneuvers. He found this officer very credible, but the officer wanted to stay anonymous. That was that anonymous witness. So we know there are more people out there who are not ready to testify or have not yet testified if they are ready.
Interesting. I'm starting to think this is going to be the year of USOs.
I think so too.
I think we are, forgive the pun, diving deep into the murky depths of mystery in 2025.
I think we are too.
I mean, Richard Dolan.
You never hear about them. And then all of a sudden, here we are. It's like every other sentence. It's on USOs.
Yeah, Richard Dolan is coming out with a huge book. I think it's like 600 pages on USOs. It's the first volume of what will probably be 2 or 3 volumes, knowing that guy, about USOs. So I want to keep following this thread. I'm interested in learning more about USOs, and this submarine case is interesting. Maybe we'll hear from this person.
Maybe we will.
Maybe they'll finally feel empowered to come forward. I don't know.
And
Or maybe, I was going to say, or maybe, again, with some sort of subpoena power, that some of these congressional members will be able to get them in a skiff, or I don't know, at least at another hearing. I don't know. We'll see.
Maybe.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, well, let's flip to Mike Gold.
Yes.
He is the former NASA guy with many other accolades, and I was most hopeful about him at the November 24 hearing, and I was the most disappointed by that witness, and only because of lack of knowledge and nothing he said. He did a fine job. I just wanted him to know more and say more. He was asked all the first few questions, and he had no firsthand knowledge, but he did add on the questions of whether branches of the government or the contractors have NHI tech. He said he doesn't know, but he trusts Elizondo completely, and his statement should be given priority and seriousness. And he made the very same response, to whether the government and defense contractors were employing exotic materials from NHI or extraterrestrial origins.
Okay.
So he did not know anything about physics breakthroughs. So he just said he didn't have any knowledge about that. And when he was asked about whether we had biologicals and whether those biologicals were intact, he just said he only knows what has been testified to, I assume, by Mr. Elizondo and Mr. Grush.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm with you. Like, it was the most, like, I think proactive, I don't even know if that's the right word, use of a congressional UFO hearing time when it comes to the topic. But I don't know. A lot of people thought Mike Gold was sort of put in there last second, that we were supposed to get a first-hand whistleblower on one
I
of
do know
these
who we
crash
were.
retrieval.
I do know that was the reporter Schellenberger was stuffed in at the last minute in exchange for a first-hand whistleblower. And that, of course, is what sent Jeremy Corbell into apoplexy over that, because they pulled his witness. Apparently Corbell was related to this first-hand experience or witness.
That was some like West Wing drama going on.
That was. I'm glad I wasn't even the fly on that wall. Sometimes I want to hear and see. That was one like, ooh, y'all can work that out.
I actually listened to a podcast recently. I want to get the name of it right. I think it's called Others from Another Mother. It's a podcast I just started listening to. I highly suggest people check it out. They had Corbell in studio, did an interview with him, and they were with him at this hearing during all of this, and they walked through that entire drama of what happened with Immaculate Constellation. Oh man, like, you do get some clarity on how the whole thing went down, but you get it from Corbell's perspective, which is obviously going to be biased. But it was interesting. It was interesting to hear, kind of how that all played out. So I just wanted to give a shout out to those guys. They seem super cool and genuine, and go subscribe to their podcast. I believe it is, I do apologize if I have the name wrong. Others from Another Mother, I think it's called.
We'll try to find it later. Maybe put it on the Facebook page.
Boom. Done.
I'll see if I can find it. Cool. It does beg the question, though, and I don't have an answer to this either, but the whistleblowers who work with Mr. Corbell and Mr. Knapp, and there's a lot of work going on there. Those guys work hard, and they've put a ton of energy and had some success with this. But when I hear those stories about snatching one witness out and putting another witness in, it makes me wonder if maybe they needed lawyers instead of just UFO people with good backgrounds, right? What would have happened if lawyers had been in play? And many of these witnesses are in fact lawyered up. You don't know about it and the front scenes, but it's happening in the background. And little slips here and there by various people show us that the lawyers have infiltrated that, and appropriately. I say that in a very positive way, to keep those whistleblowers protected and to navigate that complex system of this. And so I just had to wonder. It's really a theoretical question. It's where my monkey brain goes at night. Like, well, I wonder if that had happened. What would have happened differently? But
I can only imagine.
yeah, exactly. That's when I start making spreadsheets. By the way,
at 3 a.m, I'm imagining you with like a whole bottle of like scotch or gin next to you, being like, I gotta get this spreadsheet done. I gotta get this done.
I have to make this make sense. All right, back to Mike Gold for a second. He was asked, could UAP be interdimensional or instead of extraterrestrial, of course. And he says this, and this I thought was his most interesting response. He has no direct knowledge of this. Most things that have been seen will likely have mundane explanations. He thinks that craft that appear to be extra-dimensional could just be operating under physics principles that we just don't yet understand. And that he doesn't discount the theory of interdimensional beings or the theory that what we're seeing are highly evolved humans coming from the future. I thought that was
yes. Oh, my favorite thing.
But
Shout
there's
out
not
to
enough
Michael
data
Masters.
but there's not enough data to come to a conclusion.
Mhm.
And that he supposes, he's just hypothesizing that the most likely explanation is that they are extraterrestrial instead of extra-dimensional, but he's just guessing. I suspect he's applying a principle like Occam's razor, what makes the most sense based on what's the simplest explanation for what we're watching. I don't know that. He didn't say that. But he's trying to get some kind of conclusion out there.
I also want to point out, Suzanne, you might have one of those beings behind you. He's been there for a while. I didn't want to be rude.
If he taps me on the shoulder, tell me. If he reaches
then
for
we
me,
got a
let me
problem.
know.
Yeah,
we got a problem. Exactly. So anyway, that was the most interesting thing about Mike Gold. His other interesting response, there was a whole lot of no, I don't know, or no first-hand knowledge. But then he was asked, are there opportunities for collaboration or resource sharing between the public sector and the private sector of government on UAP research? And he went crazy on this one in a really positive way. He said, absolutely, yes. There are numerous, diverse, and invaluable opportunities. NASA should directly solicit the private sector for partners to develop AI or machine learning algorithm to scan the agency's numerous volumes of data. And he says, first of all, this data is public. This data is out there. You're not going to bump into the classification problem. And that if we just need the AI to figure out how to ask the right questions and scan the data, the already public data. And I thought that's an incredible idea. And he kind of hinted that in his testimony in November. But I thought this was interesting. He's still on this bandwagon. He also wants NASA to team up with the FAA, because through the FAA, you're also getting non-classified information from commercial airlines.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, there's a body of knowledge out there and nobody's using it. And then this was interesting. So you can tell this next section comes from somebody who has done a tremendous amount of agreement making and contract writing with the government and the defense contractors. He said NASA should always include clauses to collect the UAP data with anyone they interact with, whether they're giving a grant, a contract, an agreement, whatever it is, they need the data. And I thought that is a much healthier and easier to enforce mechanism than what our government via the UAP task force and the act is trying to do on eminent domain. Eminent domain is a nightmare legally. And for those of you who don't know, I'm sure most people do, but that's how governments take over, say, a strip of land to add a railroad or a bus line or whatever it is. They will use an eminent domain theory and take land and pay fair market value for that land. So that's a big legal process that is complex, takes years. So he's saying, put it in simple contract terms. Put it in every contract, right?
Dumb this down for me, please.
Yeah.
That eminent domain thing, like that was a horrible idea from the start. I'm so happy that the act did not pass in the way that it did because of that specific reason right there.
Yeah, and we're just going to march around the world taking things from people. No, that's not going to work. Yeah, that's another problem all by itself. No, thank you to that. He also made an interesting comment, and I had never heard this, and maybe you or the chat had, but his final comment on this in this section was that NASA needed to immediately reconsider the reassignment of their only NASA official who was explicitly responsible for UAP research. He had recently been moved into an earth sciences position, and he does not like that. And that was a mistake, basically, is what he's saying. Put him back where he was and let him be in charge of making these things happen. And then he
who
threw
that was.
I don't know. And he didn't name him. He didn't name him. So I suspect there's no way to find that out, right? That's going to be an internal thing unless
Yeah.
that person comes out. So I don't know.
I do have, I will say this. I have a very good friend who within the past week was employed by NASA,
Oh.
which is crazy in a time where NASA's getting their budgets cut like crazy
Getting
and
mail. Yeah.
laying people off. He got a job. And he is in a thread of some sort with people at NASA who have a very keen interest in this topic.
Wonderful.
And may have even worked on this topic within NASA. So all that being said, maybe we can dig that up and find out and get that person back.
Maybe we can. Finally, he threw in that all of this was really important to do as quickly as we could do it because the recent UAP sightings in New Jersey and all around the planet show how serious this issue is. So he wasn't buying the government's claim that, these aerial phenomenon were registered drones on flight patterns, blah, blah, blah. Approved flight patterns. So,
Yep. Bring it as current as possible. That's the best way to get things done.
Then last but not least is Mr. Schellenberger. Everyone will remember he was the journalist. He's also, as we mentioned a minute ago, the fellow who was popped in at the last minute in lieu of an eyewitness, a firsthand knowledge person.
We're so close.
We're so close. They asked him about the scope and methods of his investigation, and he said, no, I vet my sources, and that's all I'm telling you. What I told you in the hearing and the fact that I vet my sources to make sure they are who they are is all I'm saying. Like, okay.
Cool. Thanks, dude. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Same thing in response to what was the purpose and structure of Immaculate Constellation. And remember, that is what he was disclosing, was the existence of this USAP, Immaculate Constellation. And he simply said, I'm not going to tell you any more than what I said. Same response on whether there was more, he would provide them with more detail of an alleged database of UAP-related imagery, eyewitnesses, and sensor evidence. Not going to say anything more than what he said. And the same.
Come on.
I know. It's so frustrating, but he's not going to do it. I'm sure that's a door once open cannot be closed. I mean, I intellectually understand.
I guess that's fair.
It's not disappointing, right?
Yeah, you don't want to lose your source. Blah,
right.
blah, blah.
And then nobody's going to talk to him anymore.
Yeah.
And he said the same thing on whether primary documents or records substantiating the claims regarding Immaculate Constellation existed. And he said, I'm not saying anything.
Okay.
So
thanks. Thank you so much, Michael Schellenberger.
Exactly. But I think what you can deduce from that, Ryan, is they're out there. Otherwise he'd have said, well, I don't have that. I don't know.
Well, wouldn't the documents that he took credit for at the hearing, would those be a primary source of information?
I would think, but I don't know.
Because
I guess maybe primary means he got it from the horse's mouth instead of through another subsequent source, a hand down. So sort of a hearsay kind of question, once removed or twice removed.
You want to hear something interesting?
Yeah.
I didn't know this either. And Jeremy Corbell pointed this out in that interview I listened to. The author of the Immaculate Constellation documents that were brought to Congress, the author of that was in the room.
Really?
The author of that document was one of Jeremy Corbell's camera operators while he was filming his documentary series about all this going down.
Wow.
He basically put the person, the author of that document, incognito and got them in. Isn't that crazy?
Person. It's amazing, but I guess that's what you have to do. I know they're very restrictive and who can be there.
Yeah. Apparently the author of that document was there.
Was in the room where it happened.
He was in the room where it happened. The room where I'm so happy you got that reference. I hope everyone else in the chat did.
Good.
Hamilton,
Good.
go see
Good.
Hamilton.
Go see Hamilton. It's incredible. All right. Well, then back to Mr. Schellenberger for a couple of interesting final questions.
Okay.
He said he was asked, does the Department of Defense deny the existence of Immaculate Conception? How do you respond to them? He says he trusts his sources, and he notes, this was a little brutal, that DOD lied about UAP as recently as December of 2024, when John Kirby said, quote, there are no reported or confirmed road sightings in restricted airspace, close quote. And then Schellenberg says, and then Kirby stressed the point, saying, I want to go back to something I said at the top. There's been no evidence of any activity in any restricted airspace, close quote. And then he notes a few days later, Kirby was forced to admit that unidentified drones had in fact been flying over restricted airspace.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Just took him down. That's pretty brutal. If you're going to go pick
back.
a section to read, pull that one. Like, ouch.
Yeah.
And then I asked him, assuming Immaculate Constellation exists, what implication does it have for our understanding of UAP and the government's handling of it? And he says it's further confirmation that DOD has been intensely studying UAP since the 40s and actively spreading disinformation.
Mm-hmm. That's a pretty big claim to make.
Yeah. And then the last one to him, and this concluded all the questions to the witnesses, was, are there any recommendations you have for Congress or the executive branch? And he said, continue to insist on full disclosure by DOD and other agencies. And it's clear that DOD is hiding information without national security justifications for doing so.
That's a good point. Like, if it's not for national security, what's it for?
What's it for? Yeah.
And that's the question we continue to always ask about why there's a quote unquote truth embargo, as Stephen Bassett would say. Interesting.
Well, and you listen to that in terms of the prior question to, was it Gallaudet or Gold, about whether since 2004, an active decision, that was Elizondo, active decision got made not to share. So, it's not like it's a theoretical question from the 40s or 50s. It's a current, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Interesting. Awesome. Well, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Exhaustive research you did in pulling all of that. That's well, again, but I'm so happy that D.D. Johnson was able to get this. You were able to sort of triangulate it and put it into a cohesion for us, and these were some interesting answers and questions. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
I wish these things were said at the freaking hearing, because this thing, I mean, in the wrestling world, like, we often rate a wrestling match 1 to 5 or A to D or whatever, and I would have given this Congressional UFO hearing a D minus even.
Ouch.
These answers would have bumped it up to at least a B.
Get a B or a C, right?
Yeah,
at least
yeah, exactly. So awesome. Well, I'm giving you an A+ on that.
Oh, well, thank you.
For whatever that's worth. The chat is saying that the guy's name, the author of the Immaculate Constellation thing, they believe it to be Ryan, and they don't mean me.
They don't mean you. You didn't write it.
There was a video, I guess, where Corbell shouted out someone named Ryan, and a lot of people believe he was shouting out to the author of the Immaculate Constellation papers. So everyone started theorizing, which Ryan is he talking about? Guys, I can guarantee you it was not me. But that leaves many other Ryans to be theorized. So
that's right. Lots of them out there.
There's a lot of Ryans out there. It's a pretty common name, unfortunately.
Especially in this area. Ryan Graves.
Yep.
What's the other Ryan who testified in the first?
Ryan.
I can see him.
Who was that?
I can't call his name.
Yeah. Anyways, let's move to our last story of the night,
right.
Suzanne. We're coming up on the hour-and-a-half mark. And that is this story that came to us this past week. The House GOP launches federal secrets task force. So I'm going to do a little summary here, and then I'm going to show video from the press conference that took place. So a new Republican-led task force in the House intends to investigate and release formally declassified information related to several major events that have spurred conspiracy theories that have lingered across the U.S., such as UFOs, the assassination of former President John F. Kennedy Jr., MLK, RFK, the September 11th terrorist attacks, and the client list of Jeffrey Epstein. That's a lot. The task force is being called the Task Force on Declassification of Federal Secrets, and it will be led by the controversial Republican Representative Anna Paulina Luna. So I think what I'll do now is play a couple brief clips from the press conference of her kind of explaining what this is, what they intend to do, what they hope to get out of it. And then I want to get your thoughts and everyone in the chat. So let's go ahead and watch this and start to wrap things up. Sound good?
Sounds great.
All right.
Profound honor that I have been entrusted by Speaker Mike Johnson and Chairman James Comer to lead the House Oversight Task Force on Declassification of Federal Secrets. Together with the help of the White House, our intelligence allies, the Department of Defense, the Department of Justice, we will be conducting investigations into the following: the assassinations of JFK, RFK, and Dr. Martin Luther King, unidentified aerial phenomena, also known as UAPs, unidentified submerged objects, also known as USOs, the Epstein client list, the origins of COVID-19, and the 9/11 files. This task force will be a beacon of bipartisanship. On the Republican side, Representatives Burchett, Boebert, Burleson, Crane, Gill, and Mace will be joining me, although I'd like to note that I'm expanding this to the entire governing body and will be allowing certain members to waive on. Our first hearing is set for March. The date will be announced soon, and we've already initiated close to a dozen communications with various agencies, to include Pam Bondi at the Department of Justice and the Secretary of State. This will no longer be a task force that makes bold promises only to fade into irrelevance or send strongly worded letters. This will be a relentless pursuit of truth and transparency, and we will not stop until the American people have the answers they deserve. We will cut through the bureaucracy, challenge the stonewalling, and ensure that the American people finally get the truth that they have been denied for too long. If we are to endure and thrive as a nation, we must restore trust through transparency. The American people must be trusted to think for themselves, to form their own judgments from the truth that they are entitled to know. We've been treated like children for too long and kept in the dark by those we elected to serve us. It is my solemn duty to begin mending this trust, to form a new relationship between the government and the governed. Let us embark on this journey together towards a government that does not serve, but one that enlightens. That does not just serve, but one that enlightens. Trust through transparency, that begins now. Our first investigation will be announced, but it's going to be covering on a thorough investigation into the John F. Kennedy assassination. And I can tell you, based on what I've been seeing so far, the initial hearing that was actually held here in Congress was actually faulty in the single bullet theory. I believe that there were two shooters, and we should be finding more information as we are able to gain access into the SCIF, hopefully before the files are actually released to the public. But also UAPs, you guys know that that was the biggest bipartisan, bicameral hearing that we've ever had, I think, in congressional history. I do not know who their members are yet. They've noticed it, but they're taking this very seriously. This is not a conspiracy theory investigating committee. We're actually looking to present truth to the American people. And it's in my opinion that no one person elected to office is more important or more qualified to look at the information that they've been hiding from us. And so we look to push for that transparency. The biggest information problems that we've had with UAPs is the amount of stonewalling, stovepiping, and also it seems that there is this push to gaslight the American people into looking at the evidence and then not fully believing it. I think for us, if we're writing the budget, for example, into the Pentagon, if we're writing the budget overall for whatever programs might be out there, why is it that members of Congress who are given a top secret security clearance are being denied access? That's not a free and true government. And so for us, especially being that we have now a Secretary of State who's actually open to declassification and Marco Rubio, we're hoping to present that information and at least acknowledge it from a government perspective that we are not alone, but also let's see what the evidence is. We are going to get through as much as we can. We have a great team of attorneys. We have a great team of investigators looking into this, but it doesn't mean that we won't accept help from the public. And so we will be setting up a place for collection for people to present information. But again, this is about transparency. The government works for us. There have been people, I think, in power for too long that try to silo us and keep us in the dark, but that stops today. You're seeing that same message come out of the White House, out of the CIA, the FBI, and every other agency in between. So we are very happy to have the support of all of those individuals, happy to have the support of Chairman Comer and Speaker Johnson. And if you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to Oversight Comms, and we'd be happy to answer those at that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the chat is clearly very divided on this, which was expected. I understand that we have viewers that lean in different political ways, and that's fine. That's totally fine. You know, I'm very vocal about my politics. I'm extremely left-leaning, probably to a very obnoxious point for some. But I can basically agree with almost everything that was said about this. I mean, I do want to know the answers to all of these things. I do believe things have been kept from the public about each of those individual things, primarily the JFK assassination and UFOs, if I had to really dumb it down to those two. But yeah, one of the things I found really interesting was toward the end there where she said a public sort of thing is going to be set up where like people can actually contribute to this. This will be an investigation by them, but that the public can be a part of this. We'll see if they actually mean that. Arrow said the same thing, that the public could submit to Arrow, and it took them like 2.5 years to make that happen. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Suzanne, what did you think when you first heard about this task force, and with a little bit of time to process this story, what do you make of it?
Here's what I make of it. And of course, my lawyer brain goes in crazy directions. So this may be me and me only. But the first thing that struck me was that she was mentioning these assassinations that many believe happened at the hands of our government. And then also the origins of COVID-19. Part of me, how she said that though was, you know, and then she added, for years they've tried to silence us and treat us like children, or whatever that phrase was. And then she rosters the government agencies like a CIA, blah, 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 who are the secret keepers in relation to these alleged government associated assassinations, or whether they might be, right? Mm-hmm. I had a couple of thoughts. One of them was, interesting to tee it up this way. These are the records we want, and we're telling you, and I'm speaking out loud, both in my letters and this announcement, that we don't think the truth's been told about who actually killed these people. And we're asking about UAP, and we don't want to be killed. You know, we are calling it out. We're calling it out. We're looking for people we think the government may have assassinated, and the secret keepers. And she's tying it all kind of in a little bow. So I may be reading way too much into that, but it almost struck me as to the government establish it. Don't even try that. We're going to be public. We're going to do this. The other thing that bothered me was on February 11th of 2015, she sent a letter to Chris Wright at the Department of Energy. And it says basically this: on January 23rd, 2025, the president signed Executive Order 14176 entitled Declassification of Records Concerning the Assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, John Robert Kennedy, and the Reverend Martin Luther King. To that end, we request a briefing as soon as possible, but no later than February 18, which isn't that Tuesday? That's Tuesday.
Yeah.
But here's what she says: regarding what documents, if any, are in your possession on the origin of COVID-19. And so forget everybody we're talking about who's been assassinated, and not about UAP, that give us, you have this deadline on the origins of COVID-19. She says this briefing should be specific and identify all categories of documents, classified and otherwise, in your custody or control. After the briefing, the committee and task force shall seek to review these documents and make recommendations on declassification to ensure all applicable orders and laws are being implemented and to deliver transparency to the American people. So I think, Ryan, you and I have talked about this, like when the original 1 hour Ross Coulthart and Jake Barber thing showed on News Nation, and they had hyped it and hyped it and hyped it and hyped it. And I don't know if we said it publicly or if it was privately between the two of us, but it's like that hype wasn't helpful because it set expectations really high. So I think it's really important for everybody to take a breath here. Hopefully she'll get what everyone wants on UAP. We're not starting in that direction, in my opinion. We're starting on the origins of COVID-19, and maybe it's happening on parallel train tracks. I don't know. I don't have any way to know. But I'd say this, not to discourage anyone, but drop expectations. Let's watch and listen. I mean, I had to learn that the hard way, and I think you were right there with me on the Jake Barber thing. We both spent a sleepless night trying to analyze and come up with how we felt about that interview. And only after that sleepless night were we able to sort of have a meeting of minds on it. It's like that hype got in the way. So let's set the hype aside. Let's set the hope aside, and let's listen and watch and read.
Yeah, that's very, very well put. I think, whenever these things happen and we hear about things that get hyped, even having to do with Anna Luna, that we immediately go to UFOs. Like,
right.
She was in charge of the subcommittee thing, and like it's totally going to be UFO disclosure. And like you said, like it feels like UFOs is the very last thing they might.
That's the way it feels. And let me add this, Ryan. This task force is only authorized for 6 months.
Thank you. I was going to bring that up.
Yeah.
What? So you're going to
the members are going to be announced at a later date. What?
You're going to uncover the greatest conspiracies of all time. All of them in 6 months. While you're at it, could you maybe also find Bigfoot, maybe solve
Atlantis,
the
find
afterlife?
Yeah.
I like that one. Yes. Yeah. Well, okay. She said the public's going to be a part of it. I want to know where Atlantis is.
We'll see. I want to know who the task force members are. And why do we only get 6 months? This has gone on for 80 years on UAP. Is it 80 from 1947? Something like that, almost 80. I don't know what we're going to do in 6 months, but okay. Maybe she'll get an extension. Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. Good luck with that. Good luck. If anyone's going to get funding, probably from the Trump administration, it is probably someone who is very vocal about her support of the president, and that is Anna Luna. So, I mean, I hate to say this, but good on her for that, I guess. But you mentioned, or they mentioned, I should say, bipartisan. There are people in the chat who are wondering, like, is this going to be a total GOP takeover of all of this, or will we see members of the Democratic Party involved in this? A lot of people do believe. Well, okay, let's go there. The first reason people thought this is going to be UFO related is because Democrat Jared Moskowitz responded to her hype tweet, and everyone was like, "Oh my God." They were working together on the UAP Disclosure Act, and they worked together on the subcommittees and all that good stuff. So everyone was like, totally UFOs. And to be fair, yes, UFOs were mentioned in this press conference.
They were.
They may be a part of it. But I do wonder, like, how bipartisan will this truly be? Or like you said, are these just all things that they want to like tick off, or even, I'm getting super conspiratorial myself, even blaming the Democrats for a lot of these things?
I hope we don't see that. And I do hope we see someone like Jared Moskowitz in this task force. He knows a lot. He's been there on the front line. He's very outspoken, very supportive. So hopefully they can set that stuff aside and just focus on what the goal is, because we've only got 6 months.
Yeah. And again, like I don't want to get like too political. Unfortunately, this is a political story, but like this happens on both sides. Like
Yes.
Democrats will
Right.
find any reason to blame Republicans for something, and
Right.
vice versa. That's just the way
Right.
it is in
And
American
so not
politics.
helpful. So
No,
not helpful.
it's not. And I again, like that's why I do appreciate some of the wordage that she used in this. But like again, put your money where your mouth is, put
Agreed.
actions to these words, and let's see what let's see what problems they solve in the next 6 months.
In the 6 month TikTok. Right.
Okay.
Right.
So I'm gonna get to the poll in just a moment.
Okay,
'Cause I
good.
want to
You mean
know
I
what.
don't have to do what I normally do for you? when it's
Ryan,
done?
you forgot the. I know, I forget it every time. But I want to know from the chat and in the comments below after this goes out, after we're done here. I want to know your thoughts on JFK,
Yeah.
Suzanne.
Yeah.
You know, I've read a lot of the books. I've seen a bunch of the documentaries. I love the JFK movie
Yeah.
that Oliver Stone did.
Sure.
And I also love the parody episode of Seinfeld where they do the back into the
Yeah.
left, back into the left with the loogie or whatnot. Oh my god, one of my
Yeah,
favorite
okay. I get it.
Seinfeld episodes. But what do you think about the JFK assassination? Was it a
Gosh.
conspiracy?
There's so many reasons to think yes, and yet everybody's just guessing between
Yeah.
the Marilyn Monroe business, and then I think there was the wife of another government official who was allegedly involved with him, bit of a ladies' man, and between that and the potential threat of UAP disclosure,
Mhm.
I don't know. It's hard not to. I know that there were. I'm that first generation of people who doesn't know where they were that day that John Kennedy died. And it was too little. I was too little. But I know that before me, there were actually classes in law school and colleges on the reports around the official government reports around this assassination. And they all concluded the same thing, single shooter. But you know, it's hard to live in the UAP world and say, well, the government tells the truth all the time, because we know it's
Right.
not true, you know?
Yeah.
So I say, we just keep our eye on it. Let's see what comes out. Interesting that that's even their focus, those three assassinations, when there's something flying through restricted airspace that can't be explained and is clearly dangerous in our waters, clearly dangerous in our restricted airspaces, including our nuclear sites. The origins of COVID-19, I'd love to know, but what do we get for that? What does that do for us? So, you know, I don't know. I just wish they would focus on the UAP, and maybe they will. Maybe we won't be disappointed, but I have ratcheted down my expectations, and I'm just going to take it as it comes, and then torture you about it.
And then we will in turn torture all of our listeners. And
All of our
viewers.
listeners, right. Read this. He's just so tired of me, I'm sure. You got to read this. Watch this.
Yeah, I'm loving it. The chat is going nuts with their JFK
Are they going
theories.
crazy? Yeah, hopefully
Yeah,
I can go
love
back
it.
and catch up.
Yeah.
Sometimes it
Have
goes away.
fun
I
with
don't know
that,
where
guys.
that goes. Yeah, later on.
No, it's
Mhm.
awesome. I love getting you guys involved whenever we can. So yeah, continue that. Put it in the comments below the video too, so they'll
Yeah.
live in perpetuity after this. I'd love to know what you guys think. But let's go to the poll. Shall we go to the poll
Yes,
before we
let's go to
close
the
things out?
poll.
Okay. I'm not going to show it on screen. I'm just going to go over. I'm going to push refresh just in case to get the most current poll. So we asked, Suzanne, you and I asked over on YouTube, what answers do you want most from the Federal Secrets Task Force? So coming in neck and neck at last place, 5% said JFK assassination, 5% said Epstein client list. Next up at 8%, we had 9/11. And of course, I should have guessed this. We all should have guessed this. 83% of you want UAP and UFOs to be the answer that the Federal Secret Task Force comes with. And that's out of 88 votes. So thank you guys. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm probably going to get shit for this, but like, yeah, I want to know what UFOs and UAP are, but I also want to know who shot JFK. It's been like,
And I want to know who's on the Epstein list.
you want to know who's on the, oh, okay. That's
The
fair.
lawyer in me wants the Epstein list, but for totally
That's fair.
unrelated reasons.
What if the Epstein list are the same 40 whistleblowers that David Grush spoke to?
We're going to have a special edition of
Oh,
Somewhere
God.
in the Skies. You know
I'm
what
going to get
just
sued for
happened,
defamation.
yeah, right. Forget the YouTube strikes. We're all going down.
Right. We're going straight lawsuit.
Epstein
Yeah.
had a huge ranch out near where I live in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And
Really?
when he got in trouble, that was supposed to be liquidated. And it was on the market, and it was on the market, and on the market, and nothing happened. And it finally sold. Somebody got their courage up and bought that property. I'm afraid I'm too spooky. There's not enough sage for me to have that house go in there.
To wipe that place clean.
Lord only knows what happened in that thing. But yeah,
it's like
finally
buying
sold. Someone else owns it. Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, it's like buying like a murder house or something.
Right, right.
No, I don't want that juju.
Me
No,
either.
thank you.
Me either.
No,
Not interested.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Well, awesome, Suzanne. Thank you so much for all the work you put into this episode.
So welcome.
Truly appreciate it. The chat loves you, obviously.
Oh, they're so sweet. Such a good
they're the best, the best.
They are.
But we're gonna wrap things up. I'm gonna tease a little of what's to come in just a couple hours on the Summer in the Skies podcast. I'm really excited about it. But where can people find you if they want to reach out, if you don't mind?
Oh, sure. Suzanne Westerman Landers on Facebook and C. Suzanne Landers on Twitter. I'm also on Blue Sky, but I don't remember what I called myself over there, and I don't check it very often. So
I'll find you.
And if you send me a friend request and I can't figure out that you are related to the show, I decline those. So if that happens to you, message me and I'll send you a friend request. I'm just trying to make sure I don't let the hackers in.
I totally understand that. Trust
me.
Trust me. There was one other thing I wanted to ask you or bring up with you, but it's escaping me at the moment. Oh, Discord. I want to shout out to Discord. Yeah. You're always doing great work over there. Hides in Long Grass. Everybody over there always keeps it
Robert,
going.
Gaz, Dalen.
Robert, Dalen. Thank you guys for that. Yep. We have a Discord,
guys.
It's
a lot of fun over there.
Yep. Link should be down in the show notes. Come join the Discord. We always go over there right after this to chat a little bit and keep the conversation going. Gareth says Discord. Exactly. Yep. Keep it going, guys. Keep the Somewhere in the live stream conversation going over on our official Discord. We are growing pretty quick over there, so I can't wait to grow that community. And just keep the conversation going. I love it. I love it.
I'll be here in a minute.
Yeah, same here. Awesome. So I'm going to let you go, Suzanne, back into the chat. And thank you. Thank you once again for joining us on Somewhere in the
Bye,
Live
everybody. Yeah. See you on Discord.
Yes. And watch out for that friend behind you.
Yeah.
He's looking a little mischievous.
On him.
Love it. Okay. Thank you.
Bye.
Amazing, guys. Amazing. Special thanks to Suzanne, as always. Love it. Love it. Guess what, guys? We have a brand new episode of the podcast dropping just a couple hours UK time here for you guys. And that is with the one and only Jacques Vallée. Man. This is my second time getting to interview the man. And he's like a fine wine. Just gets better with age, man. I tell you. The more he reflects on life, the better the philosophical conversations become. And I was so honored to speak to him once again about his brand new book, Forbidden Science 6, Scattered Castles. What does that subtitle mean? You will find out tomorrow when you hear this brand new episode. But before that episode drops, I thought I'd tease it for you guys. So I have a clip from our upcoming interview with Jacques Vallée dropping very soon. And this is a little unexpected. I'm not going to lie. I went in thinking this conversation was going to be one thing, and in Jacques Vallée form, it turned completely into something else. And he told a story about something that happened to him that I don't believe he's really talked about before. So I'm going to go ahead and play this clip for you guys, and we will wrap things up. Give this a watch.
There was another experience which is more recent, that I have not completely recovered from. I had continued to look at how parapsychology could be used to, frankly, to get to contact.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had spoken to people who had researched the same thing and to create the conditions where you could make something happen. And this was in San Francisco, not here in Paris. It was in San Francisco, and we did a number of structured environments that might be susceptible, and I talk about that in the book, might be susceptible to bringing that kind of experience of contact. And nothing much had happened. Vague impressions and so on. And then one night, I'm asleep. All of a sudden, I'm out of my body. Now, psychics describe going out of their body with a structured way and so on. And there are people who can apparently teach that. I had never taken those courses. I had spoken to them, Bob Monroe and others. I had met and I had discussed the process and so on. But this was not under my control. I mean, something had just taken me and moved me to a place in my apartment in San Francisco where I was in front of an entity. The entity was not threatening, but it was large. I thought of it as, frankly, as a living being in front of me, as tall as I am, with no particular features on it, but clearly ready to communicate. There was a sense of complete communication, but again, I was out of my body, so it wasn't going to be hearing or... I was in that presence. I was very scared, even though it was not threatening, but I had never anticipated that. And I think I was so scared that projected me back in my body. My body woke up and I was in tears, and I was just completely surprised, by what had happened. There was no question I was asleep. My body was asleep the whole time. My mind wasn't. So it had essentially extracted me, to present that situation. Now, I write about that in the book. There was more, and obviously I want to explore it more, but I don't want to lead the reader into any theory about what happened, because I don't understand what happened.
Wow. A witness account from Jacques Vallée. I can't believe it. Crazy. What was it? He may never know. We may never know. But something happened to him. Was it a dream? Was it a close encounter? Was it out-of-body experience? Was it a loved one who passed on and was visiting him? What was it? We talk about it in the interview. So I hope you guys will check out my interview with Jacques Vallée dropping on the main feed of the podcast in just a few hours. If you can't wait and you want to listen to the whole thing right now, it is available on Apple Premium and Patreon. You can go to the links in the show notes to find those. And that's what you get over on Patreon. Early access to all our episodes, bonus episodes, priority to ask our guests like Jacques Vallée your questions. You go right to the top to ask people like him your questions. So you can learn more about all of the ways to support us at the links in the show notes as well. And yeah, I'm so excited for you guys to hear that. I've been just knocking out interviews like crazy lately. I don't know what's going on. I'm just in that mood. I'm in interview mood this past month, and I've got a bunch in the bank already, so I cannot wait to share those with you in the coming weeks as well. I'm doing like 3 more this week too. So the work never ends. The work never ends. And thank you. Thank you for all of your support with everything that we do here at Somewhere in the Live Stream and Somewhere in the Skies. And I could not do it without you guys. So that being said, go over to Apple Podcasts, rate and review the Somewhere in the Skies podcast, and you will be entered into our contest to win some excellent prizes from me. And send me a screenshot through DMs of your rating and review over on Apple, or simply email it to me. Email is in the show notes, and you will be entered into our contest. Winner will be chosen on March 2nd. That's going to do it, guys. Thank you once again to all of our regulars, all of our new people. I saw some new names and new comments in the chat, so that's always super exciting. We're happy to have you. We hope you will come back next time we do the live stream. And thanks for giving us a chance. And head on over to Discord. We will see you guys over there where the conversation continues. Again, link is in the show notes for our Discord. Thank you again to all our Patreon subscribers, new YouTube members, and everything in between. And that's going to do it. Hello, Ashley. Good to see you. I know you're coming in late, but go back, watch the show. We're so happy to have you here. And good stuff. Good stuff, guys. All right. That's it. I promise you, we're going over 2 hours. Damn. I don't know how that happens. Time flies when you're talking UFOs. That's for darn sure. Awesome. All right, guys. We're going to show all of your comments as we close things out here. And I want to thank you all. Thank you to everyone who gave super chats, super stickers, all that good stuff. And we will see you hopefully next week. I'm not too sure yet what if we will be doing the live stream next week. It depends on my schedule. But let's say for now, a tentative yes on that. All right, that's going to do it. Thank you so much, guys. And I will leave you, as always, with our mantra. Keep your feet on the ground, but never stop searching somewhere in the skies. Take care and keep looking up.
There's nothing to hide. There's nothing to hide at all.